DayBreak, Chapter 7, Part 3. Wing blades flew through the air and embedded themselves into the back of a ratty old couch. The scarred mare trotted across the room and examined her handiwork. She pulled them out one by one and slid them between her feathers. She flew into the air and swung one wing in a strong stroke. The blades hit the couch, burying themselves deeper.
In other news,
The homemade radio hissed.
High Princess Luna has decided to move the Canterlot Nightmare Night Masquerade up a week to accommodate King Andean's visit to Equestria.
The mare floated down to the radio and turned it up. She settled herself down onto the cot and flicked her ears around, searching for any sounds out of the ordinary.
When asked how this would look with High Princess Celestia still injured, Princess Luna stated that Princess Celestia did not want life in Equestria to grind to a halt because of her injury.
The mare's eyebrow lifted.
No word yet on who did and didn't get onto the invitation list, but we'll update you as soon as we find out.
Her scar itched worse that day. Without treatments, it would soon start to burn. She pulled out her silver canister of ambrosia and dabbled a little onto a cloth. She patted her injured cheek with the medicine. It cooled almost instantly, but it didn't heal. It never healed. It never would. She shook her white mane and retrieved the blade still embedded into the couch. She looked around the dark, cold room that she'd been staying in. It was a small abandoned warehouse on the edge of Canterlot's Ledge, owned by a pony named Dulcimer she'd seen on the sign over the door. Only one magic-powered light still had a working bulb, so she'd set up a few pieces of furniture underneath it. She then clicked to a different channel.
You're listening to Good Afternoon Ponyville. Next up is Sweetie Belle with her hit.
Then to another channel.
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of ponies? The shadow frighten up.
Then another channel. Although, the next channel burst out with a series of screeches, thumps, and beeps that caused the mare to press her wings to her ears. She slammed a hoof down onto the radio, shutting it off. All was quiet. A cold chill permeated the room. The scarred mare wrapped her wings around her body to hold in warmth. She shut her eyes tight and gritted her teeth. A long, low sigh like an ancient beast coming awake reverberated around the warehouse. The mare opened her eyes and stared at her hooves. Slowly and hesitantly, she lifted her head and looked at the far corner of the room. Just beyond the glow of an overhead lamp, and just before the shadows enveloped everything in its darkness, there sat a mirror. The frame was gold, molded into vine-like swirls and leafy spirals. The mirror was smoother than it should have been physically possible, flat down to the molecules. The scarred mare's hooves shook as she took a step towards the mirror. The sigh sounded once more, accompanied by air blowing past her mane. Her heart raced. She forced herself to take even breaths, but even with that, she had to fight her own sense of panic every step of the way. She stood before the mirror, but there wasn't any reflection. There was only a gray, swirling mass of clouds. She prostrated herself, no longer daring to look into the void. Her teeth chattered, as another sigh, another breath, touched her body.
Kill the younger alicorn.
With that, the chill in the air disappeared. The feeling of panic resided. The presence left the room. The scarred mare stood, brushed herself off, and bowed her head.
As you have said, Master.
Chapter 8. Costumes. It was warm for an autumn day on Canter Mountain. Mist surrounded the towering stone monolith, obscuring the capital city from view. From within the city itself, the outside world was bleak white. Ponies could barely see a block away before details were obscured by the enormous cloud. Princess Luna rubbed her eyes as she walked down a lineup of royal guards.
Have the weather ponies on duty been alerted yet?
Yes, ma'am, Snipon said. They should have the fog cleared within the hour. The captain sends his apologies. There was apparently a freak accident at the local cloud bank.
Freak accident? Truly.
Luna snorted. She stared off into the mist and worried her lower lip.
3 guesses who the freak was. Stolen a brochure from the hospital, damage to the cloud bank, an attempted assassination, murder at the construction site. Oh, this mare has quite the repertoire.
Snipe and Skyhook shared a glance. The latter tilted his head towards Luna.
Do you think they're all done by the same pony, Your Majesty?
I feel quite comfortable blaming any and all of my problems on her.
Luna's ear twitched at the hint of a deep buzzing noise.
Here comes another one.
2 full lines of royal guards snapped to attention, their alternating gold and silver armor clattering in response. Luna's personal guards closed in on her flanks, their eyes burning holes in the air straight ahead. Luna herself did her best to mimic her sister by standing tall, spreading her wings and raising a regal hoof. The prowl of an airship cut through the clouds, parting the mist in its slow approach to the docks. A long, sharp rod led the way, followed by an almost cylindrical cloth envelope. Metal rigging webbed around the air pocket like the ribcage of a dragon. Stabilizing wings swiveled and rotated on hinges. Propellers whirled on the sides and back of the airship. Steam poured from mechanical devices near the aft, driving the gears found all throughout the dirigible. The bridge, a rounded box with equally spaced windows, was atop the midpoint of a metallic skeleton. Luna could almost see the griffin scurrying around inside, relaying and obeying orders. She laid her ears flat when the airship dock sounded out with her bellowing foghorn. Now that it was closer, she was able to see the ship's body entirely. It was shaped like a fish with a narrow front end, wide middle, and tapered rear. It even had the vertical tail of a saltwater fish. It turned as it lumbered towards the mountain, showcasing its starboard side. The side opened up. A phalanx of griffin soldiers stood at attention, spears gripped in their talons. The first line stepped forward, flaring their wings, and dropped off the edge in concert. Each additional line of griffins did the same, until the entire squad was circling overhead in aligned V formations.
The airship would be enough for some people,
Luna murmured. Shard Scale could be heard scribbling off to the side. A larger griffin flew from the airship's hangar. His wingspan was the width of a city street. His talons could crush a cart. His eyes could see for miles. His beak was sharp as a razor. A mane of feathers framed this bare-skinned head of a condor, while bear claws scraped the air behind him. A ceremonial sword the size of a lamppost hung from his side, decorated with veins of gold and crowned with a ruby pommel stone. He landed with a rush of wind. The platform shook from a sheer heft as he marched towards Luna. He turned his head sideways to look her in the eye. "Hi, Princess Luna. It's a shame that we can't meet under better circumstances."
King Andy and Ursagriff.
She gave him a polite nod.
An impressive display, as usual.
Andian grinned. He opened his beak wide and shouted at his soldiers. "Krashwa, Fetak!" The griffins, Andian splitswings, thundered down from the sky. They landed in 5 perfect rows of 5 behind their king, their wings folded and their spears upright. Andian's sharp eyes surveyed the city. "Perhaps you should let us loose. All blitzwings have some experience with weather manipulation." He smirked. "Though, with not nearly the raw ability of a Pegasus, of course."
While it is kind of you to offer help, I must decline.
Luna's eyes flicked to one griffin soldier after another, all of which were staring dispassionately at her own guards.
After all, you are our guests here, and we have our own ponies to remove the problem.
Andian cocked a brow. His talons danced as he raised his foreleg. "Removing the problem, are you? Decisive. I like it."
I do hope that the rest of your trip is similarly to your liking.
Luna turned, joined by her assembled guards.
If you'll follow me, I will show you to your suite.
"Not just yet, Princess." Andian held up a talon. He turned his eyes to the airship as it docked. "We still have some unpacking to do." Luna's jaw tightened.
I am sure the servants can handle it.
Andian harumphed. "You misunderstand. Some of my flock aren't necessarily the strongest of flyers. I won't leave them behind." Luna gave him a curt nod.
Then I shall lead the way.
Ropes looped within rings as they drew the airship into the harbor. Clamps the size of small buildings rose from below to grab the ship and allowed it to rest. A gangplank extended from the vessel's hangar, acting as a bridge. Griffin servants hurried across the bridge with luggage strapped to their backs. Behind them, accompanied by a few particularly strong Griffin soldiers, were 2 young girls. The smaller one fluttered her wings and rushed forward. "Shisha!" She leapt into Andian's embrace, her fuzzy head rubbing against his chest. She was small enough to fit into the palm of his talon.
Krashwak!
"Manistella," Andian said. "We're in Equestria now."
Oh, right.
She looped her lion's tail around a talon and bowed her head bashfully.
The blitzwings were wonderful, Father.
He smiled and tapped her beak. "Ah, as usual." The elder griffin girl curtsied to Luna.
Thank you for allowing us to visit, High Princess. We are
smiled.
We are honored to have you. It's a pleasant surprise. I didn't know Andian was bringing you to.
But how could I pass up a chance for my daughters to see the Equestria that they've heard so much about? King Andian nudged his youngest daughter forward. "Hi, Princess Luna. Please allow me to introduce Princess Stella, my youngest." He rested a wingtip on the other griffin. "And my eldest, Princess Corona." Belatedly, Stella also curtsied.
Will we see Princess Celestia raise the sun?
Andian smirked. "Ah, yes. Where's the Sun Sovereign?" Dealing with some sort of fallout from the fog, I assume? Luna's reply got caught in her throat. Her eyes turned down before focusing on Andean's.
You mean that you have not...
As a frown spread across Andean's face, Luna bent down to Stella's level.
I'm sorry, Princess.
She said.
But Celestia's not feeling well. If you wish, I can wake you in the morning to watch the sunrise. I'm sorry, but Princess Celestia got sick?
Corona asked.
I thought you said that she was immortal, Father.
Well, yes, but she's still a pony. Andean's expression darkened a few shades. A fallible yet unfathomably wise pony. The thundercloud around his head disappeared as he turned to Stella. Why don't you and Corona follow the gods to your room? You can get set up and ready for the party tonight. Do you have your costumes ready? At eager nods from both, he chuckled and sent them on their way. He stopped laughing as soon as his daughters were out of sight. Celestia's ill, is she?
There was an assassination attempt a few weeks ago. I had assumed Felicia got word of it.
Luna shook her head.
It appears I was wrong.
Andean reached into a pocket at his side. He pulled out 2 smooth stones, which he rolled around in his fist. So, how successful was the attempt?
She's hurt, but recovering,
Luna said.
I have taken over her duties in the meantime.
Indeed. Then I suppose it's you that I need to speak to. He took a stone in each talon and held them a few inches apart. He let one go, and it jumped to the other. So, you may have surmised that this is not necessarily a holiday.
Well, it rarely is to a griffin.
Ouch.
You're too practical, Andean.
Luna held her head high.
You may as well spit it out. So, what'd you visit?
Advertising. He tossed the rocks in the air. They clattered together as they fell back to his waiting talon. There's been a breakthrough, and I wish to share it with the world. For a price. Luna nodded. She started walking with Andean at her side. The guards followed at a respectful distance.
Very well,
She said.
What sort of price?
Ambrosia. Andean scratched his beard of feathers. So, how do you feel about a little bit of noise at your Nightmare Night party? I wouldn't expect world leaders to have the most exciting times conversing about business deals and the like, but I feel like this one is going to be way different than how they may usually go, in an exciting way. Now let's get on to our exciting donators. Top donators, Dash of Evergreen, Peter Coulthard, J Tinman, Darkside, and Ponyman. Courier Crucii, Strix, Zar630, Delta Omega, RuneScythe9852, Dospo, Rhiny Dragonwolf, Hunter Norman, Austin Roland, Secret Moon, Tal Rasha, The Toilet Snake, Sword Brethren Mordred, Cerberus, Goulash Eating Hazar, Ronin Wandering, Enderai63, Random Person Man Guy, Starlight Glimmer, Squiddy Boy, David E. Sanchez, Soul Dragon, Gaggy, Trey, Shadow Drake, Joe Piercy, Alex F., Rainbow Dash, Teal'ca Anderson, TV Killer, John Becker, Leon Reynolds, Raven Speedster, Zach Raquel, Mr. ECU, and Leslie Prickett. Thank you all very much for watching this video. Live life to the fullest, and make some kick-ass business deals.